The UN says more than 70,000 people have fled the Sudanese city of el-Fasher in the North Darfur region since the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, seized control of the city on October 26. Other cities in the country's north are now preparing to receive tens of thousands displaced from the widening conflict. Meanwhile, prosecutors at the International Criminal Court said on Monday they're collecting evidence of alleged mass killings and rapes after RSF captured el-Fasher from the Sudanese army. Survivors described their escape as the city fell.
Everyone fled the city. Soldiers and civilians fled. Everyone rushed to escape amidst the gunfire all around us.
As we were fleeing, we encountered rapid support forces in the street. They asked for my money and my phone, and if I had a knife with me. They took everything.
I can now speak to Kashif Shafiq. He's the country director at Sudan Relief International and joins us from Port Sudan. Welcome to DW. It's great to have you on the show. What are your teams telling you about the situation in and around el-Fasher?
Thank you so much, Nick, once again having me. What we are witnessing from our team in el-Fasher and the surrounding is nothing short of humanitarian catastrophe. The city has been under siege for months and now been taken over fully. And the images what we are receiving from the ground, all the infrastructure is being entirely collapsed. The major hospitals and the health facilities are collapsed. And we are seeing the gradual numbers coming into Tabila, Tina, and northern states. And these numbers, which are coming right now, are not really capturing the on-ground figures because the estimated figures were around 200,000 and more. We believe that many still trapped in the open desert, as Relief International is working in North Darfur from last 2 decades. We knew the information from the ground that how many civilians were on ground before this takeover. We still doubt 1,000 more need to cross different localities to get the safe refuge.
Many of the people, sorry to jump in there, I'd like to zoom in on the situation in Tawila, which is a city roughly 60 kilometers west of el-Fasher, and it has already taken in hundreds of thousands of displaced people. What can you tell us about how they're coping?
You know, Tawila already having more than 500,000 IDPs, and on top of that, more IDPs are coming. Now, Tawila itself was already overwhelmed. Now with the new IDPs, having limited resources on ground, the organization are struggling to cope up the situation. And on primary care, Relief International and other are supporting, but on the secondary care, only MSF is the one who are managing the total beneficiary attendance and treating the trauma care. But there is dire need to immediately deploy the emergency medical team on ground. Unfortunately, the train towards Tawila is quite harsh. From the eastern side, there is no route to come across to the Tawila, only from the Chad access can be enabled. Now, Chad itself do have its own issues, border management, and it's not a supply hub. Now we need to procure all the supplies internationally and need to ship to Chad. And after that, it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks to reach up to the Tawila. But unfortunately, right now, one of the major is that impartments of the resources, which are really hindering the ability of the organization to scale up.
Yeah, and just to give our viewers the context, they need to understand this. When you talk about IDP, you mean internally displaced peoples. Now, it appears that this conflict is moving into the Kordofan region, that's east of Darfur, and people are fleeing from there too. Do you fear we could see a similar situation there to what we're witnessing in Darfur?
No doubt, Kordofan is also on the knife edge. And if the situation further deteriorates over there, and we'll be seeing thousands and thousands IDPs crossing into the northern state. Unfortunately, the Kordofan and the Darfur dilemma will be overburden many resources on ground, and the organization may be overwhelmed while receiving these all IDPs on ground.
That was Kashif Shafiq, Country Director at Sudan Relief International. Thank you, and all the best to you and your colleagues on the ground, of course. Felix Moringa is following events in Sudan from our studio in Nairobi. Felix, we just heard two people there talk about their experience. What more can you tell us about what the displaced are saying about the situation on the ground?
The displaced have horrific stories to tell. One of the families that were displaced has a father who managed to escape with his 4 children. He says he was not able to mourn the wife who had just been killed. An old lady who was sexually assaulted by the soldiers say that when they were roughing her up, she told them that I'm actually old enough to be your mother, but that did not stop them from sexually assaulting her and then sending her away. Many of the family members are saying that they left their relatives in a rush to just save a life. And most of the male counterparts or most of the male relatives to these families were arrested and imprisoned by the RSF soldiers. And some of the family members are also worried that some of the kin that was left behind could end up dead because they are hearing of ethnic killings that are taking place in el-Fasher. And the UN is also reporting that about 250,000 people are still stuck in el-Fasher. They are not able to run for safety. The situation is just worsening, and the victims have horrific stories to say about what they left in el-Fasher.
Yeah, horrific indeed. Many of the people who are fleeing are heading to Tawila, which is a town west of el-Fasher. And the city's already sheltering more than 650,000 displaced people. That's according to the UN, and that's roughly double the size of the city itself. What are the conditions there? What can you tell us?
The conditions are dire and they are crazy because the numbers that are being hosted are so many. People keep coming in to Tawila and the camps that are nearby that area. Of course, the UN, alongside other rescue bodies, are there helping the communities to cope. Local organizations are also helping the members of the community who've been displaced to just find somewhere that they can get shelter. But even that shelter is not available for most of them because most of the tents that were available are now filled up, and mothers and young children are having to sleep on open spaces just so that they can run away from the fight. And even the food situation is also worse because if a family was sharing one loaf of bread, they now have to have a half of bread so that they can share the other half of bread with the new family that has just joined them in the camp. And the victims are saying that they fear that the situation could get worse because some of the victims have been displaced more than one time. Since the war began, they've been displaced. They went to el-Fasher, they thought it would be safe. Now they've been displaced again. Now they're in Tawila, and they are not so sure that even Tawila will be a permanent space for them, or they will keep going. The facilities that are there, toilets, water, all the facilities are overcrowded and overwhelmed. And some of the medical practitioners are saying that the situation could get even worse.
Yeah. The Kordofan region, that's east of Darfur, has become the latest battleground between Sudan's army and the paramilitary RSF. Are there fears that we could see a repeat of what's just happened in Darfur and what's still happening in Darfur, of course?
The UN International Organization on Migration says that the situation is tense and fluid because it could change anytime, it could worsen anytime, and whatever happened in el-Fasher could be repeated in North Kordofan. And just last week on Friday, 1,200 people were displaced in just a single day, bringing the number of those displaced to about over 37,000 people who are just displaced in the last week. And the numbers are feared that they will go up. And the army and the RSF soldiers have been seen in the streets of Kordofan. They are bringing in more artillery, they're bringing in more military vehicles to just gear up for the fight. And the main reason why this fight for North Kordofan is important for either the army or for RSF, it's because North Kordofan has resources. It also has it's a key strategic entry point into Khartoum, and so whoever controls the city has easy access to Khartoum, which is the capital city in Sudan. But also, North Kordofan has an airport, which gives either the army or the RSF access in and out of Sudan at will. And so that's why it's such a key strategic place for them. And the situation, according to the UN, is tense and fluid and could even get worse in the coming days.
That's DW's Felix Moringa in Nairobi. Thanks so much, Felix.